Hello, this is Dale Matthews. It's Inside News, and I'm joined today by Mike Jones.
Yes.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Dale.
So,
500.
500. This is our 500th show in a row for Inside News. 500 shows without a single, well, I'm not saying without any technical problems, but we've never missed a show. I've been on every one of them. Mike has been on all but just 4 shows, and there's always inside news. We're always here for you, and we will tell you the inside news as we see it with video so that you can verify that we're right with our opinion, which of course is right. And
Yes,
we are often the only ones, the first ones anyway, but often the only ones to tell you certain pieces of news. You'll be hearing more about this following thing, probably coming up in the newspaper Tuesday. Once a month, Mike and I make it a regular trek to get on down to a group run by a fellow by the name of Brian Pumbo. You'll see Brian on Tuesday night commenting about the election. He'll be a co-host along with the other 2 of us. And he puts together something, the Conservative Action Forum. I call it the Confederate Air Force, CAF. And we talk about issues of the day, almost always about local politics. And most of the candidates have come by for a visit to tell us why they should be elected or to share their opinions with us. And you'll see a number of different folks who know about local politics that want to come and share their ideas or pick up some ideas. And one of the people that's been a recent addition to the group, because he moved here from Jackson County, is Stewart Sennett. Mike?
Yeah, actually, he was a regular well before we even came to that group, but he was coming to the group from Jackson County. I mean, so he was a diehard member there of the group. He would, that's quite a trek to make. Just for the purpose of having this breakfast and a little bit of like-minded, group fellowship there once a month
for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It usually drags out because people, it's hard to get us all to shut up because everybody has something to say at that meeting.
A lot of Type A personalities. Now, I'd been working on Stewart to run for county commissioner for months now, working on him, working on also on Bill Hunker, and working on some other guy, Mike Jones, to try to get them to run for county commissioner. And not against me, thank you very much, but to run. And Stewart agreed that he would sit out this one so that Bill Hunker would run unopposed, and that he would then be available to run against Simon Hare. Well, everybody's going to want to run against Simon Hare, and he was my favorite candidate for that. And I say, he was my favorite candidate. We saw him this morning. He was happy. We always kick around a whole bunch of different issues and don't always see eye to eye, but almost everything. And shortly after leaving the meeting this morning, he ran into a utility pole. Mike?
Yeah, and I guess we don't really know that much more about this right now as to what happened, whether there was some medical thing that caused him to lose control of his vehicle, or whether he was distracted or something. We don't know what happened as of yet. It's not a whole lot of details, but apparently he was killed this morning. And it's so odd just having seen him at the meeting, no less animated than any other time,
His wife, Margaret, wanted to know if he was happy. And I said to her that the last thing, because we disagree about things all the time. Mike and I do all the time on the show. And I said, I told her that the last thing that I said to him as he was going out the door is I patted him on the back and I said, you know, you're my favorite candidate for this next time through. And, you know, we love you, Stewart. And so he left there happy. He was happy to be in Josephine County. He went into a long thing that I wanted to ask him more about why he loves Josephine County much more than Jackson County. Okay. Cool. He found that people here were very friendly, and he said that any time that he goes out into the community, that he went out into the community, that people would, his neighbors would wave at him and stuff. And I said to him, after a long explanation about why his neighbors were waving at him, I told him that every time I drive down 7th Street, people are always waving frantically at me, and then cars are coming straight at me. So,
yes. Yes.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, you know, one of these days you're going to learn about the one-way streets in this town.
Right. So
I know it takes a while. When I first got here, I did a little bit of that myself.
So Margaret Sennett just wanted everybody to know this, and so she called us shortly before this show so that we could be sure to tell his friends. And sorry if you didn't know Stewart Sennett, but we'll be talking more about him and sharing more details as they become available. And
yeah, it would be hard to forget Stewart because of some of his statements at the weekly business session. Most memorably will stick in my mind for a long, long time was when he, this was right after Simon Hare returned to the Board of Commissioners after the whole DUI situation. And Stewart told him, there is something wrong with you. And Simon's like big old saucer eyes, like, wow, I can't believe this. And everybody else is like, whoa, I can't believe he's saying it. But he was giving him one of these, you know?
Yeah, straight spoken guy.
Yes.
This is our 500th show in a row. And while we've talked about it from time to time, I thought it might be appropriate, instead of talking about the city council again, please, that maybe it would be a good idea to talk just a little bit about some of the stories, just some of the stories that we've revealed here exclusively or first. Was sometimes the Courier following us by like 2 weeks was one of them I remember, but talking about issues, some of them big and some of them smaller, but I hope that you have found that they're all pretty telling details, especially about the Board of County Commissioners, and that if we weren't here for 500 shows in a row, and including 2 from the hospital, it's very dramatic, that you wouldn't have heard them at all. So some of them are pretty iconic, and I thought I would just mention them, and then Mike's going to tell you some details at any length he wishes. So one of them that we told you about was not just the misstatement that Keith Heck made and that Cheryl Walker confirmed, but when he had called county employees little moles that sneak around and do lesser services, and then decided that that didn't sound good. It didn't. And that then he accused Mike and I of doctoring the videotape without thinking that we had it also on the county's audio tape. And that's exactly what he said. Tell us a little bit about that, Mike. 500 shows.
Well, I mean, he said this, and then Dale said that he said it, and then of course, he said, no, I didn't say it. And then of course, what we had to do, if you're going to accuse somebody of having doctored the tape, they need to have either done that, or you need to have some proof that they didn't do that, or that they did do that. And of course, we had the county's own audio recording, and we had our own audio from the camera. And so it was easy to take the waveform audio out of each of these things and throw them into an audio editor, and then do a screen capture of these things playing first one, then the other, and then both of them at the same time. And so it was pretty obvious that Keith Heck had stuck his foot in his mouth, and he's done it numerous times since then too. But that's
well, he could have said, "Hey, look, everybody makes a mistake. That's not really what I think. If you ask anybody that knows me, they know that I'm not a rude guy." Except what he decided to do was go in exactly the opposite direction and accuse us of lying. And he sent out an official letter to all the department heads trying to get them to tell their employees to rally behind him because we were the liars.
Yeah.
That's astounding. Go ahead,
Dale, I've just received, Lily Morgan just sent me the report from Grants Pass Public Safety regarding Sennett. And
yes,
it says 57-year-old Grants Pass resident. His vehicle was a 94 Ford Explorer on 5/14/16 at 10:48 hours. That would have been just after leaving, because we were this meeting that we had this morning was breaking up at about 10:30. So he had to be going home from that or something. The Grants Pass Department of Public Safety received 911 calls reporting a single vehicle crash into a utility pole on south side of Northeast D Street at Northeast Flint. A caller reported a male occupant was possibly unconscious. Police, fire, and AMR were dispatched to the scene. The first officer to arrive found the male had been removed from the vehicle by an unknown witness. The officer performed CPR for several minutes until medical personnel arrived on the scene. The male was transported to Three Rivers Medical Center, where he was later pronounced deceased. The male has been identified as Stewart Sennett, a 57-year-old Grants Pass resident. Detectives assisted with the investigation. The preliminary investigation reveals that Sennett was traveling west on Northeast D Street for unknown reasons. He crossed into the eastbound lane and struck a utility pole at Northeast Flint Street. Detectives are investigating the possibility that Stewart may have experienced an unknown medical emergency before the crash. Anyone with any information regarding the crash is asked to call Detective Sergeant Evans at 541-450-4561.
Can you tell us that number again, please, Mike?
Okay, it is 541. This is Detective Sergeant Evans at 541-450-4561. I believe that is a mobile, so that'll probably go direct to his cell phone.
Okay, and if not that, then you can always call the police department, Grants Pass Police Department.
Sure.
Tell them it's not an emergency and that you would want to speak with Detective Evans. Detective Evans has been involved in several investigations of things that have been of concern and is well known to Mike and I.
He is?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know specifically.
Well, he's been behind a number of investigations about things about which we have commented in the past.
Okay.
Margaret, his wife, said that perhaps it was a brain aneurysm. She didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that was a kind of a mystery to me about stories that we've covered, because we're going to go on with the news. I did call her back. I called the number back, and she was nice enough to pick up the phone and talk to me for a few minutes, because that's what we do. You just never can tell these days what the heck's going on until you try to double check something. And thank you to Lily Morgan for that. But I'm getting a call from someone I don't know. I'd never heard her before. She has a kind of a British accent. I had no idea. I couldn't confirm who this was that was talking to me on the phone. So what we do is, regardless of our personal feelings, we're going to try to double check. Okay? That's what we do. All right. $100,000 cost overrun for, since this, they've denied it, that they miscounted, Simon Hare and company miscounted the number of floors of the Dimick Tower and the contract that had been written. Go ahead.
I think I'd be lying about that one too.
Oh,
I don't know that I'd admit. I'd blame it on something else, but I certainly wouldn't go. Yeah, I miscounted the number of floors.
Well,
especially when they're. I mean, you could see that maybe if it was a 200-story skyscraper or something, but when it's 4 stories, it's like.
Well, the Daily Courier decided that $100,000 cost overrun was not worthy of being reported at all. And it took them quite a while to get around to it. And KJO never did report it because, in my opinion, they're not a news organization. They never got around to reporting about it. $100,000 cost overrun. In what town, much less small city, in America would a $100,000 cost overrun not be counted as any kind of story?
Yeah.
You could only hear it from us. Only from us.
This town right here.
Brother.
This is the one.
Okay,
so we're 1 in a million.
After these aren't in any order. After weeks of having pretty much knockdown, drag-out fights without the blows, but with a lot of bad feelings flowing back and forth and taking over most of the meeting, there was a big fight between Cheryl Walker and Simon Hare about economic development and what Cheryl Walker had done, because she was the head of economic, I almost said Czarina, that's nice. She was the head of economic development, so to speak, for the county. Mm-hmm. And Simon wanted to know, where's the progress? Where's your report? You keep promising us a report. Tell us a little bit about that one, Mike, because we were the only ones that reported, and we were all there. We could see it was happening, but nope, even the reporters in the room weren't reporting it. Go ahead, Mike.
Gosh, it was what a mind blower. I mean, it went on for 45 minutes about, everybody loves a little drama. I mean, I think a lot of people go to these meetings expecting or maybe hoping that they're going to see something exciting happen. But this was one of those situations where it was too much of a good thing. I mean, we like to see Simon and Cheryl, going for it. But this was like everybody was so happy when it was over. And,
Do you remember what Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger said?
Yeah, I forget exactly, but,
She said something like, I'm going to paraphrase, that's enough of that. We don't need to hear any more about that. And Cheryl says, it's something like, it's none of your business. And Vivian said, yes, it is. Because it wasn't just happened. This wasn't just one meeting. It was like 3 meetings. But one of them, the argument took about 45 minutes. And at one point, Cheryl says, well, I'm not going to be taking advice from someone young enough to be my son.
Yeah, right.
Not a single peep. It was crickets in the corner from the Courier. Don't expect anything from KJO. Okay, but crickets in the corner from her. And the IV News, why would they care about economic development? And the report from the Courier was like a couple of people were appointed to some kind of advisory board. End of story. Really?
Yeah, it's, I don't know why. They would not want to cover it. Now, we had another situation very recently where there was a fight between them, but it couldn't be denied because there was already a TV camera in the room,
yes.
And it did show up on the news, and it was kind of like, I think that they over there in Medford were probably a little less intimidated. I don't know if I
called them. Now, did they come because I called them? I don't know, but they don't often come to the meetings. But I called them and I said, you may want to show up for this meeting. Well, they did this time.
I'm trying to think of what was the topic there.
I don't remember.
Isn't that weird? I mean, this stuff all runs together. But the point is that there has to be some reason why local media does not cover this. Now, is it that they are in the tank for these guys? Maybe. Is it more likely, in my estimation, that they're worried about having their access to elected officials cut off?
Hey, we report with no access. I mentioned something the other day, and Keith Heck just stared at me.
Yeah, but I mean, see, they want to be able to make a phone call and get one of those guys on the phone. Probably makes them feel important or something.
Well, okay, so we do some important stuff. We report things that others don't, and we have zero access. In fact, they deny that we're any kind of media at all, no kind of media. Well, yeah. Now, do you remember when we were there? Of course, Mike remembers. We were there with 2 cameras for the swearing-in ceremony of Simon Hare and the sheriff and somebody else. And the person behind us from the local media, from the TV station, made up a story. It made up the story, and she got fired. I don't know if it was fired because of this, but it was for some kind of reason. Tell us about that, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is an odd thing about this particular story, because I remember having conversations with people outside the courtroom before they let us in. And, there was this thing going around, some anticipation as to whether or not what sort of reception Simon Hare was going to get when he did his swearing in and all of that. And it may well be that one of our local citizens influenced this reporter in a particular way by making a phone call to them and saying, hey, we're going to protest such and such at the swearing in or something tomorrow, So anyway, what happened was we had a couple of cameras. We were in there. We videotaped the whole thing. And the reporter from Channel 12 said that everyone else who came up was applauded except for Simon Hare, and suggesting that
it was her main point. It was the main point of the whole story.
Right, and this was back beginning of 2015, right after the incident in December of 2014, not to be confused with the incident of December of 2015. December, bad month for Simon, apparently, where he texted young girls with someone else's phone. And I don't know, I guess, he thought it was a joke. He was drunk, obviously. I mean, we've had plenty of these indicators that Simon Hare has a control problem, and that was certainly one of them. But the story was wrong. Everybody that got up, they were called up there, and none of them were applauded when they got up to walk up there. They were applauded after they did the swearing in, and everybody gave the polite applause, and then the person went and sat down, and the next one came
and
up.
She was sitting right behind us, okay? And she says, basically, watch this. And you could see him silently walking up, and then it's back to her and paraphrasing, oh, what a burn that was. Look, nobody applauded. But even if she was wrong when she was there, when you sit down and you edit this, you have to be able to see that nobody got the applause as they were walking up. So she made this story up. So I called the TV station. Now I got some criticism. Well, why would you help Simon Hare? No. That's not it wasn't helping Simon Hare. It was, we also review media. And when they lie to your face, we're going to say something about it. Yes. And in this case, it was just a lie. And you can't have a TV station that's going to send somebody out. Well, the Courier does it. But you just can't have so does the IV News. But okay, you shouldn't have a TV station where they send somebody out, and especially if we're also there with 2 cameras, and just lie about it. That's not going to work, and we're not going to keep quiet about that. Yeah. Okay, not in any necessary order here, but we were also in a courtroom with the camera when Mike was, when I sat at the plaintiff's table, and I was saying that I felt that the ballot measure that the city had put out there for people to vote yes or no on a sales tax was flawed, and that there were things in it that should have been included that weren't. And the other people that were up was people that we normally don't agree with, because they back every levy that comes forward, was the Chamber of Commerce. And so, Mike, there was a certain point near the beginning where I just look at you and I go, okay, it's like, we might as well go now. Do you want to recount that?
Well, that was the infamous decision by Judge Wolke. Is that his name?
Yes,
Wolke?
Judge Wolke, yes.
That, well, nothing is permanent in reference to, and the whole reason why we were in the courtroom to begin with was over it was a challenge to the ballot title and essentially the verbiage in this proposal. And one of the things that other people wanted is that people understand that this is going to be permanent. And I think most of us can agree that when someone tells you in this life that something is permanent, they're not, a permanent marker is not everlasting. It doesn't stay here until the Earth is swallowed by a supernova of the sun. This is not how it works. We understand that when somebody says permanent, it means it's going to be around for a long, long time. It's as opposed to
it's a term of art in law. In law, they use to sell this to the city council. They called it permanent, and it was in the wording of the rest of the document. But they didn't have room for this one word.
Yeah, and it's completely stupid. And if you go to I forget the name of the website where you can go and research a law, ORS statutes, and in any event, and I did on a couple of occasions. I searched a particular document for the word permanent, and it showed up like 57 times or some crazy thing like that. And the bottom line is that the judge said, well, nothing's permanent and nothing stays here forever until the end of time. So, permanent, we're not going to be putting that in the proposal. We're not going to be and I was kind of floored by that. Here's this guy's rewriting the definition of words, as a means of making a judgment about this, stupid thing. And, so Dale said after that, well, you're never, ever going to be able to use the word permanent again.
Yes, I said that to the city council. They weren't very happy. Another word comes in here, prejudice, prejudge. This is a judge that had prejudged the case. It is the very definition of prejudice. Now, there was something else that happened that I thought was even more important than this ridiculous thing from the judge. It was ridiculous. It was what Mark Bartholomew, the city attorney, said. And nobody told you about this except for us. Tell us what he had said, what Mark Bartholomew said in the courtroom.
Yeah, this was really kind of weird. He essentially said that, and this was a discussion about the propriety of the verbiage in the proposal that was going to be. I'm losing it as to what you call that. I mean, we've got a bunch of them on the ballot now.
Right, that was going to go out to the people, and it was not explaining it well enough. And Mark Bartholomew, regardless of the word, because he'd already won that point with the judge before the trial even started, but he made an announcement that surprised everybody.
Yes, and that was that it didn't really matter what the citizens said or did. I mean, we could have done this without a vote of the people. We could have just, made it be the case. We could have just said, we could have taken a vote on the city council, and that would have been it. We could have imposed the sales tax without putting it to a vote, but that might not be, politically the wisest. But
and when we voted,
verbiage, we have the video somewhere.
And when we voted, after we voted, still could be the case now, according to the city attorney now, Mark Bartholomew, a name worth remembering, after we voted that the city could revoke, that's the word they use, our vote
if they didn't like the outcome.
At any time.
Yeah.
Now, that to me is a key turning point in the citizens' relationship and voters' relationship with the Grants Pass City Council and with legal counsel for Grants Pass. And there was not a single word about that in any other media except for us. And we played the tape back for you.
Yeah, and you would think that would be like a bomb drop or something. Because, and it also is sort of telling in that they have obviously had these conversations behind closed doors somewhere downtown, when they're yucking it up, drinking their coffee, talking about this situation. Well, if they don't like it, we can, we could just
revoke the vote. Did you know that was possible? Okay, so another time, and this was when Mike caught it. He was out on the street doing First Friday interviews, and he saw the mayor Darren Fowler. Now, did Mayor Darren Fowler recognize Mike? Well, Mike's there with the guy with the camera. Okay, but why he's there with the guy with the camera?
Yes, but neither one of these two people were Dale Matthews. So I doubt the mayor is going to make that mistake twice.
Now, all that I need, like Zorro or like the Lone Ranger, is just to put, or like Superman, just put on glasses, and no one will recognize me. Oh, I don't know who that is, right?
Yeah, but he obviously didn't watch the show,
so Mike, tell him the question that you asked him and what Mayor Darren Fowler said, please.
Well, there was a little bit of back and forth before this, but then I said, well, what's going to happen if in a couple of years, actually what I said was, what's going to happen if in 6 months, people start closing their doors around here, and this is putting people out of business. And I couldn't believe how calm he was about it. He goes, well, we probably keep it going for a year or two afterwards. I thought, wow, I was floored by that. So, if you saw that it was putting like half the businesses in the downtown out of business, you'd keep going with it. Now, the political
so if you give this vaccine
different, but
if you give this vaccine to all the children in the hospital, and most of the children are dying, you'll just keep giving the vaccine for another year or two to see what happens.
Yeah, because it cures chickenpox, don't you know?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's no.
Now, when is this guy up for re-election?
Yeah,
in November.
This November.
Yeah,
but and is anybody running for mayor? For crying out loud, make yourself known.
Nobody's announcing yet.
Anyway, I just thought, wow, that's incredibly telling about this guy. But you know what? The political reality of that. If actually half the businesses in the downtown were about to shut their doors because of it in 6 months, they'd be backtracking pretty fast. I doubt very seriously. I mean, the pressure from that, because listen, I'm just some guy. These guys who are in business, they'd be downtown making their voices known. They'd be saying, hey, you're killing us here.
Okay, all right. Now, but wait a minute. Okay, the city council got a lot of feedback from the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
About the sales tax.
Yes. And a lot of business people too.
Yes, and they got up one after another saying, hey, I'm interested in law enforcement. I always do this, but I'm telling you that the city sales tax is a bad idea. Person after person after hours and hours of testimony. And the result from the mayor was I didn't hear any good arguments, and the response from Dan DeYoung was what, Mike?
Yeah.
Law enforcement.
Yes. No, I know. He did not like the people's reaction to things. As a matter of fact, he made it pretty clear that he sort of thought that the people were stupid, and that essentially nobody was interested in law enforcement. All these people, they were. No, this is Darren Fowler. That was he didn't hear anybody saying good suggestions. They're just saying no. I forget exactly what
it was Dan DeYoung that said that people obviously weren't interested in law enforcement. So what we did is, since we had the tape, we played back person after person after person saying, we're really interested in well, obviously no one's interested in law enforcement. We're really interested in law enforcement, Well, obviously no one's interested in law enforcement. Again and again and again and again. They're not hearing you. They don't want to hear you.
But I'd tell you, Dale, people who came there to argue against the sales tax is not quite the same as people who would be coming there with pitchfork in hand, that their business is being shut down by this, and everyone else's in town is under imminent threat. I think you would see a different, because they were thinking at the time when this whole thing is going on and these people are coming out, well, these people just don't understand economic development.
Yes.
Or, they just don't understand how this works. This is going to be great for everybody. More law enforcement means more people down here buying stuff, and your businesses are going to be just fine. So I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to go. Yeah, and that's basically.
So we played back the tape, and it was a very interesting comparison. Now, we've had tape of things before, as we did with Commissioner Heck. There was a period of time here where Wally Hicks and the commissioners and the head of HR were all saying, well, you don't have it on tape, Dale. What? We played it on tape. No, you don't have it on tape. No, we played that tape last night. No, you didn't. You don't have it on tape. Are you saying that we don't understand and that there's mitigating certain? No, we're saying you don't have it on tape. Wait a minute. Yes, we do. We played it last night. This was crazy time. Want to fill them in about that a little bit, Mike? There's not much more to say about it, except it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there isn't much more to say about it. It definitely. Well, you know what? This just shows how out of touch these people, and I don't really want to call them leaders. These people have a goal in mind that differs from yours, and that is to give more money so that they can run their shop. Let's just say they're running a bakery and they want to add a new line of donuts, and they need another wing added onto their place for that. And this is what they're concerned about. They're concerned about more money to keep government chugging along, and they're not interested in what you think. And even though that you're paying for all of this, their response to your complaint is condescension, and
it's so strange. I've had people before say, well, that never happened. I said, but I've got it on tape. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, you always have tape. Yes. And? Well, these guys were denying that we had it on tape. And we'd played it the night before on our show. No, you don't. Well, yes, we do. No, you don't. That didn't work for very long. And we were talking about how crazy that was. Well, there's something we didn't have on tape. Is that when the sheriff would still talk to us, but he stopped talking to us there for a while. Well, still won't talk to us because we were killing him with the details. He had anecdotal evidence, or as Simon here puts it, anecdotal evidence, but he didn't have any facts behind him. And if you want to get the people's support, you're going to need to come up with facts. And he just laughed. But one of the things we don't have is we didn't have the latest example in front of the budget committee. Everybody was told, well, look, you're going to need to have a status quo budget, and they told them this as long as a year ago, that they need to have a status quo budget, and so, but they're still, even though everybody's supposed to ask for the same thing. I'm getting to the point in a moment. Ask for the same thing that they have. There's an emergency. So when the sheriff stood up, maybe he could have said, now listen, I know you said ask for a status quo budget, but this is an emergency. You've defined it as such. And I've said that it is because I was at the meeting where it is an emergency. Yes, it's an emergency. So I'm going to need more money. But he didn't do that. Mike?
Yeah, and this is one of the tough things to figure out, because you assume that somebody is a sheriff and is primarily concerned with making sure that they have what they need to provide adequate public safety, and in times when that funding is deficient, you would think that he would jump at any chance to to bolster the coffers a little bit and provide a better measure of public service. And Peggy Goodwin in the last couple of budget hearings has lined it out for us that there is $1.5 million that is eligible. That does not take away from the
Road
it's an
fund.
ever growing roads and bridges reserve fund, and that it's not going to hurt that. This is, and $1 million of that $1.5 million that she was talking about was a windfall that we never even expected. It came last June, and we were expecting $51,000, and we ended up getting $1 million. And so there shouldn't be any issue with at least giving a portion of that to the sheriff, if not, giving him the whole thing. And so now, when the commissioners try to convince you that indeed we do have this public safety fiscal emergency. Now think of an emergency in your own life. If there was a fire going in the room behind me, that's an emergency. I have to drop everything and deal with it right now. And if I don't, my house is going to burn down. That's, so those are the circumstances. Okay. The only thing that's going to buy you a fire extinguisher to deal with this situation is some of the money out of the Roads and Bridges Fund, which, because of recently passed statute, we're able to take that money and use it for road patrols.
And we've done it in the past.
Why would you not do that? Why would you not do that? And Simon, in opposition to this, always cites, well, we gave $450,000 to those dirt bags and they never paid it back.
They told us at the time they wouldn't be doing that. They said when they gave them the money, we won't be paying you back.
Yeah, but you know what? But he thinks that is something that he can add to the argument that gives legitimacy to it.
Not while we're around.
That these loaning money to this department is just not going to work. Well, part of the statute states that it doesn't have to be a loan. You can flat out give it to them for that. You don't have to get paid back for it. So, yeah.
All right, here's another thing that they've been telling us. They had been telling us for over a year that the SRS payments, that we were on our own, that we were, the red-haired stepchild, that nobody was paying attention to us in Washington, D.C. We can now count on SRS payments going away, no matter what our senators say, no matter how many times. Even one of the House people had said he was asked by the local officials not to say happy things about it. And then you only heard this in one place before, during, and afterwards, that a quarter of the counties in America get SRS payments, and that there's 22 at the time. We announced it. I announced it at a weekly business session. We had it on this show. 22 different people in D.C. that are pushing for this at exactly the same time that all three commissioners are telling us that 0 people were pushing for it. And then after I was done, they said, oh, yeah, we knew that all along.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, then how does the narrative continue? It's funny because we made jokes about it because Cheryl would say, "Well, no one's talking about that in D.C. right now." Of course, they're not. Generally they don't talk about that until the week that it's happening. There's this particular case here with the 22 congressmen that are pushing this. Because there are other places that are having issues with this constant cutting back of SRS payments. Listen, it's idiotic for the federal government to decide that they're going to provide you with a stream of income to support services in your county, and then cut it off and start ratcheting you down and expect that that's going to get backfilled with extra property taxes. This must be what they're thinking is going to happen, because they're so disconnected from us. They think, hey, you know what? We just tax the people more. That's the solution to it. It's obviously the solution to everything else. It has to be the solution to this. But And many people have referred to this as welfare. Now, the SRS payment kind of is welfare because they're almost paying us, it's some supplementary money.
Except that we have a contract.
Yes, but SRS money is not O&C money. It's not the same.
Okay, I hear you. But look, to me, the point is, the point is, we talked about this story. And the reason that we broke it at the Wednesday weekly business session is because we got a press release from the 22 counties.
Right.
The Courier purports to be a newspaper. The IV News is supposedly a newspaper. KJO is supposedly a news operation. They're all recognized as news operations, and we're not. But we're the ones that introduced it. Where are the other guys? Why aren't they talking about this?
The Courier did get around to reporting it.
Eventually, after we did, and after we made a big deal of it.
And long after we did, because we were talking about this. This was a long time ago that we started talking about it.
So why the heck aren't they telling anybody the news? Well, you will know what the reason is, okay? You don't need to triple guess this.
Yeah, we've beaten this horse a lot.
And when that letter was sent to the governor by Cheryl Walker, who read the letter out loud on our show and at the weekly business session? Was it the Daily Courier that told you about what was in the letter? No, it was us.
Yes.
No, wait a minute. We're not media, right? So why are we the ones that are telling you all the news, and the Courier, and forget KJO, it's nothing. I mean, it's bargain roundup, okay? Bargain basement reporters. We're telling you what happened with that. And I think it's pretty important. And we're the only ones telling you what's happening with it. 500 shows in a row, and we're telling you what the news is. So, I don't like your opinions. Well, that's fine. But could you listen to what the letter says? Are you in favor of a letter to the governor about this? And oh, no, we would never do it. But you did it. The other thing is that we were the first ones to announce is, what was the name of that place that was trying to start up over at the IV airport? What was the name of that company? It was
Erickson Aircrew. No, you're talking about the drone operation there.
Yeah, what was the name of the company? It was Simon Hare's biggest contributor to his campaign. Yeah, Simon Hare's biggest contributor, and we were the only ones that have ever said that. It is true, but not a single peep from any of the media about that. What kind of? That's not media. What is it? It's rewriters of the press releases. Well, that wasn't in a press release. No, but we easily found out because we're journalists. That's why we do that. Well, you're not part of the Newspaper Publishers Association. Well, no, we're not a newspaper. That's why we're not members of the Newspaper Publishers Association. And so we told you about that. And we went on to their website, and there's this confidential plan of what they wanted to do at the airport, including building condominiums on the airport. And we introduced the whole plan, made it available. I made copies available to the one reporter that they used to have at at the Courier. Editor Campuzano, 100-page report, just gave him a copy of it. Here, do your own, because they want to do their own research, purportedly. And we introduced that, and people were like, wow, this came from Bad County. Yeah, badcounty.com, it is a terrible name. But we're the only ones telling you. Where's everybody else? Where's everybody else? The IV News is out in IV. I think that's why they're called that. Where was their story about this? Only us. That's ridiculous. We're just two guys. Yeah. But we got, I think, the right attitude. Okay. The airport. Drones, the drones at the airport. Yeah. And then when there was this noisy helicopter thing from Erickson Aircraft that tried to start out there were people who didn't like it, and there were some people who came in a little too late that did. And the airport's manager was the one that said, and we reported this, of course, well, I want to spank those people out there for not, you're going to want to spank them? You're a county employee and you're saying you want to spank these people? And he said that remember what he said, Mike, about the Smoke Jumpers Museum people and how they didn't back up the county? You remember that?
Well, listen, that's misguided because the Smoke Jumpers were just providing the venue for the meeting.
Right.
I didn't realize that because and I'm assuming that the Smoke Jumpers as an entity is different than the county government. It's not the same. So it isn't their responsibility to back the county on everything unless you're planning on holding their facilities over their head.
Well, that's what Larry Graves did.
Do something.
Well, what he did afterwards is he said, well, the FAA, and they may not approve of this, and, they might be in trouble, and I might talk to them. And what kind of retaliation is this? It's like when Larry Graves got all over that guy that felt that he was paying too much in rent. He was calling him all these names and F this and F that. And, of course, we talked about that because that's part of the news. Here's a county employee that's gone way out of his way to hire a private investigator to look at I don't understand this kind of stuff, and I don't like it. And we're the only ones that are talking about this. We were the only ones who showed you the helicopter. We didn't shoot the helicopter footage. We showed you the helicopter footage, and you could see the decibel meter moving, and it showed, at least on that test, that Larry Graves was not telling the truth, okay? Because you could see for yourself. Mike and I got hold of this footage from the people who were objecting to the water testing and the idea of arsenic in the water, and we played back their video, which showed how they collected the samples so that you could see for yourself that they were being careful. And also the other thing that we've done, obviously, from looking over my shoulder is Mike videotaped all of the candidates' forums. I couldn't help with that because I'm sitting up at the table, but he videotaped we put them all up so that you could see what's happening. We are
not only did we put them up, we put them up live. You could watch them live. You didn't have to come to the venue. You could have just watched our show and caught a live presentation of that. And then, of course, afterwards, it's a video archive. And they're still on badcounty.com, which you see right behind Dale right now. And listen, we're down to the wire, for crying out loud, really. The count on all these videos should be in the thousands.
Yes, it should be. Now,
and it's not.
We've got over 320,000 views. We've been going now for 3 years, I think 3 years. 3 years? Going now for 3 years. We did live coverage of every candidates forum. We have all these shows that are on. We're on every night for 500 nights in a row. We're introducing news that you haven't seen any other place. And the commissioners insist that we're not media of any kind.
Yes. It's getting kind of hilarious. Further down the line we get on this.
So we want to thank you for joining us on our show that doesn't exist. Keep in mind that Cheryl Walker says that if you ever watch this show, that's a tragedy. And so we're going to say goodbye to both of those commissioners.
Tragedy.
And we're going to see whether they're replaced by more of the same.
Yeah, and listen, before we go.
Yes, please.
I just want to say, rest in peace, Stewart. And, it's very clear from seeing, Stewart at this meeting this morning and having him not here now that, we're here for a brief period of time, and that, we should, it makes me think about having my affairs in order so that I'm not a burden to other people when I pass on. That and that there are a number of things that I procrastinated doing. If there are things that you intend to do in your life, do them, because you never know if this morning is it for you.